Welcome to the segment of Mind You and Food brought to you by BeSimply. And today we're going to dive into a little food alchemy and some seasonal recipes and give a little shout out to some TikTok chefs and cooks and talk about how we can replenish our system during these fall to winter months. In addition, how we can support ourselves for our brothers and sisters down under in the spring to summer months. So today, one of the comfort foods I love as fall happens upon us is that we have this beautiful opportunity to cook soups and all these kinds of fun, yummy things. And I personally love being able to roast a lot of vegetables and have mealtime be warm, comforting, and also like a hug, because it seems in the fall, as we're shedding, as I've shared before, this is a time where we naturally are going to be inspired to shed grief and clear our lungs. And in the spring, we're inspired to release anger. So it's interesting because in the flow of grief, you go from sadness, wanting to cry, and then you come to a stage in your process with grief to actually release anger, because there's usually those woulda, couldas, shouldas. And the other thing that happens, when we're managing grief is either one's not so excited about eating during this time. However, it is something that people love to give when they don't know what to do. And this is especially true when there's been a passing or a big climactic moment that has altered someone's lives. And usually your neighbors and friends rally around and deliver food. And so a real comforting food that can happen during this time of year are soups, nice warm grilled sandwiches, oven roasted veggies, all those kinds of fun things are super helpful to us as we dive into fall. The other nice thing about this is this helps build up our immunity and can give us the nutrients that we need as we move into the fall and winter season. And the other thing about immunity is spring to summer, we have typically allergies. So the same thing's going to happen. You will have a histamine response, and if it gets worse, you can get a sinus infection. No different than getting a bacterial or a viral infection in the winter months. They're the same mechanisms. They feel similar. However, they're not always treated the same, which really you can treat a sinus infection or viral infection very similarly. And if caught early on, they are quite manageable. So one thing that I really recommend as you lead into these winter months is fall to winter, is that you really think about the things that typically work for you. And as I always say, one size does not fit all. So to really think, gosh, what does work for me and what can I do to shore up my immune system? And if you happen to be looking on the video right now, I just put up a slide with zinc enriched foods. So I'm passionate about eating your nutrients versus taking a lot of supplementation. So zinc has been shown time and time again as something really helpful in managing our immunity and warding off something going from even a sinus infection or just an allergy reaction, nasally thing into a sinus infection. Same even with a viral infection. by introducing those zinc-rich foods. And if you notice, there are some things that might not be appetizing to others. However, you can choose what works for you based on what is agreeable to you. And if you start to really recognize what works for you, your remedies will be quite effortless. You won't have to do a lot. I think I mentioned, I'm sure I've mentioned it before, I posted it before. For me, what works, if I notice something coming on, I get hot water, lemon, local honey, cayenne, cardamom, and a little cinnamon. And I drink on that as much as I can all day long. And actually drink more than maybe I even want. But what that does is it flushes the system. The cayenne in there works as an antiviral, antibacterial, and the same with the cardamom, and the honey is an antihistamine, and the lemon also it's an astringent, so it cleans the system for you also. And it's a technique in Ayurveda to like wake up and have lemon water. You can have your local honey too, and I do recommend if you have seasonal allergies, take a spoonful of honey, local honey. And the reason for that is because you have all these beautiful trees, plants, flowers, and those bees are pollinating off your local atmosphere. And then when you take the byproduct of that, that helps with that antihistamine response by reducing it down. And that is one way to do it without having to take over-the-counter or prescribed pharmacology to treat allergies. This also is very helpful if someone goes into a viral infection, because they'll start to have a histamine response, and this can nip it in the bud. So that image that I guess I should say what it is for those of you listening. You have lentils, you have peas, you have cayenne, you have cheese, you have beans, you have avocado, you have eggs of all kinds, mushrooms, octopus, all different kinds of things that are zinc rich, zinc fortified. And when I do the post, I'll make sure that I add a list of zinc and the previous post that I've done for immunity boosting. Now, let's get down to grief and comfort food. When we feel sad, we tend to want comfort food, and this is normal. This is why we have whole genre of food with comfort. And actually, I have a beautiful son that works at a place that they specialize in vegan comfort food, and if you're here in the area, you can go taste their cuisine. It's called chives, and it is super, super yummy. And again, it's comfort food. And what do we want this for? It gives us a hug. So when we don't feel in control, we tend to go for food. So that's the two things to be sure of, is that what are your natural remedies that work for you? When you start to feel something coming on, what works for you, and do you have that handy? And then the other part is for you to think about what is your comfort food, and is there a way to balance that out? So oftentimes, many people like comfort food that might be high in sugar, which does not help with our immunity, carbohydrates, and then it's not necessarily balanced out with some vegetables or protein. So I encourage you to think about, gosh, what do I like, and what can I complement it with to help my immune system? Because this is how it works. When you're feeling down, when you're feeling sad and blue, that you more than likely are going to go for those foods that comfort you, and then that will actually chip away at your immune system coupled with your emotions. So this is why we want to bring it together. And also, as I mentioned, that sometimes we don't want to eat. So that's why soups, if you're delivering that comfort food, soups are really a great way for you to nourish someone, give them a fresh loaf of bread, because bread is oftentimes very comforting. And when you do that, you will give them nutrients that will harness their immune system and shore it up, and at the same time they'll feel like they're getting a hug. So think about all the places that you typically go to get that comfort food, and then think what else you could pair with it. I was sharing with someone, especially with sugar, if you add in fiber like a romaine lettuce, this will help balance out your food intake and will balance out your blood sugar spike. So that's another way for you to think about supporting yourself during this time of year. So when I post the recipes, you're going to see some of my favorite that I like to do for my family and even for myself. So I have a yummy recipe of a seasonal soup, and I make it all year round, but I will do a garden tomato soup that you can make and have on the stovetop. Depending on your ecosystem, you can leave it there. You don't even have to put it in the fridge. You can eat on it for a couple days. It's fantastic. And then you want that comfort food, so cheese and bread are usually that. I love to do a grilled pesto sandwich, so you can make homemade pesto or add store-bought pesto if you don't have time. Your favorite cheeses, slather that up on bread from a local bakery or handmade by yourself. You grill that up on a panini grill or in your cast iron skillet, and you serve the two together, and you're going to feel so much love, so much love. And that's a great way to go for lunch, for dinner, even a late night snack if you need it. Another comfort food, and this is shown, this is why we look to chicken noodle soups. They help. There's plenty of studies showing that the ingredients in chicken noodle soup helps bring someone back into well-being. Oftentimes this is because, one, the chicken soup is made with the full chicken, so you're getting a bone broth, you're getting some good fats in there. And so the one thing also that I like to make is you can do it with all the parts of the chicken, but I did this for my kids when they were young and they really loved it. So if you're a parent out there, is chicken legs. And this is a really cost-effective thing to do right now if you're noticing that if you do eat meats and fish that has gone up in price. You can get the chicken legs, and from there you'll oil up a glass dish. You're going to slice up a lemon and break up a head of garlic. Leave it in its garlic paper, and you're going to layer the bottom of that with some of the lemon sliced thinly, garlic, and then chop up half of a yellow onion, and you're going to place that on the base, add some fresh thyme, and then you're going to take your chicken legs, you're going to take juice of another lemon over the legs, you're going to put thyme, cracked pepper, and Himalayan salt or sea salt, and then you can also add the other half of the onions and some more lemon slices that you can put on. And then also put some fresh butter in there. You can rub the legs down with that prior to doing everything I said, or you can put it in and around. This is going to make a nice, saucy, gooey, yummy stuff as you roast this. You can put this in the oven at 325 to 350, depending on how warm your oven is. People might say, what is she talking about? Truth be known, a lot of people's ovens are not calibrated with the degrees. So once you get to know your oven, you can see where it's at and what you need to set it at. I've taught cooking classes at restaurants. I was shocked. Their oven was way off, so I had to crank it way up to get things done. So once you cook the legs, they're gonna come out. If you have a meat thermometer, that's a way to go, but you can just use the fork test. You're gonna prick the legs, and as long as the juice comes clean, you're about ready. They'll be golden brown. You can rotate them and baste them in the roasting process. This can take anywhere from 30 to 45 to 50 minutes depending on your oven. Simultaneously, while you have this in the oven, you can quarter up a bunch of new potatoes, place these in their own pan or a cast iron skillet. Oil, you'll put thyme on there too, cracked pepper, salt, chili flakes if you like, any other spices that really feel good to you. And you're gonna roast those. These will take a little bit longer. A good roast potato will take about an hour and a little bit higher temperature. So you can decide, you can either have a slower roast with your legs, set them out and let them sit, and then do your potatoes, or vice versa. I like to do the potatoes about 375 for a good 50 minutes to almost an hour, rotating them probably 2 times so they get nice and crisp on the outside. So that is another comforting dish. The potatoes alone are comforting, and that's another great way to go. You can do sweet potatoes, new potatoes. You can roast those up and have those as a meal with a side salad or warm greens that have been lightly sauteed. And also, if you like to have your veggies and you're not feeling the salads in the winter time, you can grill or you can roast these in the oven. You can take Brussels sprouts, cabbage, red onion, layer those out on a jelly roll pan or in your cast iron skillet. One of the best tools ever because it really retains the heat and roasts everything really nicely. You put that in the oven around 350. Again, this will probably take you about 25 or 30 minutes, and always check back to my recipes because I am going through this in an intuitive fashion. I will refine it after I've thought about it further with the recipes as I put them out. But those onions will caramelize, your Brussels sprouts, your cabbage. Add a little olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic in there, and then serve this with a nice dressing. You can mix with lemon, olive oil, a white vinegar, and some thyme, oregano, and basil. Whip that up really nicely, or if you don't want a white vinegar, you do use a balsamic, because grilled Brussels sprouts or roasted Brussels sprouts really like balsamic vinegar. And I'd like to bring this up that there are certain foods that belong together and others that do not. So when you're creating in the kitchen, really think about what grows together in the garden and what likes to hang out together. It's like chocolate and strawberries. They really like each other. This will help you with making recipes and deciding. And of course, sometimes it's fun to get avant-garde and do wild things in the kitchen, but I really recommend you sit back and think, what likes to be together? What grows together? And this is why Mother Nature provides everything we need really in the world around us. Like everything we actually need is in and around us, so you don't have to go far to find the things that will work for you. It's just there. It's so beautiful. So the other thing I want to touch on during this time of year is that this comfort food is something to really think about as a barometer of where you're at emotionally. If you're going for a lot of comfort food, you might really want to check in, especially in these fall months. This is when depression can set in because of that stored grief that we have in our bodies. So if you take the time to just be really honest with yourself, saying, wow, I'm eating a lot of comfort food, and maybe I want to start moving my body, get my breath going. This will help lift that stuff off the lungs, and movement is one of the best things to start to move the stagnation, which can happen anywhere in the body. And also, when you start to fight a little bit of a cold or infection or even an antihistamine response, if you get out and move and sweat, This is really helpful because it starts to move that energy in the body. If you don't feel like you have the energy, listen to the body, but get in a hot bath or a hot shower. So that will lead us into our fall Ayurvedic tip. Apple cider baths or washes are a great way to detoxify. Just take a bottle, or you can buy it in bulk, apple cider vinegar, pour it in the tub, soak in it for a good 20 or 30 minutes. You can also, in your shower, have a spray bottle of apple cider vinegar, spray it on the skin, let it set, scrub it, and you'll be amazed at the apple cider, how it brings the pH. It helps bring the pH of your system into balance. A lot of people will use the apple cider shot, helps work out any congestion, bring the gut back into harmony, and will give you a little pep in your step for those fall months when you might be feeling a little sad and blue. This is reminding me of the song my friend Apple created, and yeah, I can't put it on this segment, but I will link it below. You can go, I think there might, I don't know that we did a video of that, but there might be a YouTube of it. Actually, I did a whole segment on grief, so I will link that below. So next up, so your apple cider vinegar washes and soaks. The other thing that you can do in the fall to get everything flowing is to help your digestion, because there is the tendency, even for people who are staying indoors more, they may not be moving around as much. Sometimes our digestion gets clogged up. So you can combine these, keep them on the kitchen counter, add them to dishes as inspired. And I always recommend adding them at the base. If you add oil and garlic and onions, add this there. But you can put fennel, cumin, coriander, cardamom, and chili pepper. This is a great digestion aid. The other thing you can do is toast it up on a frying pan till it starts popping, and store those in a little container. Now be careful with the chili flakes, because that might be a little much for you. So you could leave that out if you do the toasted ones. Put those in a little tin, keep it in your purse or your backpack or your even your car. And after you eat, you can just pop a little half teaspoon in your mouth and chew on that, and sure enough, it'll go down. Or you can put it in a cup with hot water, and you will be so surprised that any and all bloating that you might feel after a meal that's not agreeing with you will disappear. All right, so I have mentioned before the herbs. Super Feast is my jam. I love this company. I have a bunch of their herbs in my kitchen, and they are another way during all seasons to do any type of small supplementation to rebalance the system. Now, it's not one size fits all, and it's not like, oh, let's all do this. You really want to evaluate what will work for you and what won't. As I mentioned before, we don't get into the position of imbalance overnight, so do not expect an herbal remedy to get you out of imbalance overnight. So reishi is a great one. Shaga for this time of year. Ashwagandha is another great one. So I will link those again. And lion's mane is really good. Turkey tail, they also have that. And you can find these everywhere. You don't have to get Superfeast. I just really love promoting companies that have aligned work best practices and values as myself. So think about that. If you know, like, hey, I always get a cold this time of year. Hey, it means do a little inner work with your emotions. It means take time to eat good food. Go easy on toxins, meaning recreational substances, alcohol, all those things. Just ease up. This is a time to slow down. And that's another thing to note, that for those of you that feel like you have to take all these herbal remedies, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I pretty much was the bubble child. My family, we all had a lot of allergies. My brother and I both were very sensitive to things, as far as like we'd eat them and almost immediately get rashes, or his gut would get bloated. And this was for me, I would say for him potentially too, but we don't have an absolute on that, is from having those shots. And well, I had one shot and had an extreme reaction, and then I had part of a series later on in life and had a reaction. So inadvertently, my great secret here is that because of those moments, it was kind of a blessing and a curse. I cannot handle most things, meaning that even herbal remedies aren't always going to work. And especially if I've started to have an immune response, meaning whether it's a histamine response from allergies, something I'm allergic to, or I have an infection coming on. So what did I get the opportunity to do? Learn how to heal myself with little to nothing. And so I want to encourage everyone, if you start to feel not that great, it's better to like almost fast, remove everything. Don't start adding in a bunch of herbs you've never taken before. You want to have reverence for Mother Nature and what you put in your body. So think about, gosh, what works in my body? What do I know? What do I know that I'm not allergic to? And maybe I'll just do without until my body calms down. And then as it starts to feel balanced, I can add and replenish. A great story was way back when I first moved to California, my neighbor Echinacea was all the rage. Well, guess what? I am super allergic to Echinacea. Basically, closed down my lungs. I was out of work for over 4 weeks. Could barely walk. It was really one of the longest recoveries I've ever had in my life. And there were two problems. One, the Echinacea, and then two, the ER doctor prescribed two things that were in contraindication and made me worse. So this is why it's not always advisable to always take everything that one takes. And that's why I'm super excited just to, offer people the time to have a quick chat, see where you're at, and see if I can point you in the right direction, or if there's an opportunity to work together. So honestly, be really mindful about what you do. Just because it works for your friend doesn't mean that it will work for you. So, but I will put the links below. You can read about them. And if you want to book just a gift consult, I'm happy to talk with you, see where your imbalances are, and then we can work from there. So as we close up, I'd like to give a shout out to some TikTok chefs. I've put them below. Justine Snacks, I really love her style. She creates this simplistic format and a nice monologue with it. A lot of fun to look at. So I got intrigued by TikTok. I had an aversity to it at first, and then I kind of dove in. It's raw and real. The other two are Courtney LaCorte. I will put her link below, and Sophie's Munch. It's just fun to see how people create what they create, and it can be inspiring. And TikTok's one of those places where people will share what works with them, and this is a great way to say, hey, I want to try this and see if it works for me, with the caveat of remembering not all things work for everyone. And that's why I'm going to put up this zinc thing. If you're watching, again, look at all those things that contain zinc. You could pick one of those things that work for you if you need it. You may not even be craving it. And this is how that human body works. It's if you need it, your body will crave it. And there's certain things that happen, like when you're missing certain minerals, you'll start to crave those things. Like, for instance, if you're eating a lot of chocolate, you are probably low in magnesium. So therefore, what you could do is get a beautiful enriched mineral water, soda water, get a lot of lime or lemon, whichever you prefer, or orange, citrus, or none, if that bothers you. But drink that. You can even throw in fresh blueberries, mint, basil, if those things agree with you. And that's a great way to replenish your body with the minerals that you might not be receiving. So to close out today, I really appreciate you all being here. Is that this past week I launched, and it doesn't matter when you're listening to it, it'll be available in some way for years. I have offered custom plant-based cleanses, and there's a reason we go plant-based during these. I'll explain it to you if you want to engage. But I created an off-the-shelf. As you know, one size does not fit all. However, these menus, I've made them very simplistic so that they can work for almost anyone. And then I will explain any substitutions if they're needed. That link will be below. If you prefer to do the custom approach, that's always available, and those links are below. The blessing of this, what it does is it helps your system stay in balance. Also, it's a time just to take a little bit more focus on working on the inner landscape versus just the outer. So it not only balances the body, it balances your mind, heart, and soul. It's really just a lot of love that you can give yourself. So we are going to sign out. I appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you all. And until next time, this is Suzanne signing out with a full heart, a soft gaze, a deep bow, and a namaste. Be simply.
When we speak, we aim to please, dress our words up to the T in hopes to impress. God forbid they disagree, or maybe they just don't see. Don't let it cause you stress, 'cause I got a little secret for you, and it's one less thing that you gotta do. It's a whole lot more fun if you make me a deal. Yeah, promise not to think, baby, just feel. Move to your rhythm, show me what's real. Yeah, try not to think, and baby, just feel. Only for you and never conceal. Yeah, baby, just feel. Feel you wanna retreat, don't work your mind, just move your feet. Your heart can handle the rest. Little time we got here, don't worry about what they think. Who cares if they detest? Cause I got a little secret for you, and it's one less thing that you gotta do. It's a whole lot more fun if you make me a deal. Yeah, promise not to think, baby, just feel. Move to your rhythm, show me what's real. Yeah, try not to think, and baby, just feel. Only for you and never conceal. Yeah, baby, just feel. Hey, think, just feel, keep it local, keep it real. Don't tell me what they wanna hear, just tell me how you feel. Don't think, just feel, keep it local, keep it real. Don't tell me what they wanna hear, just tell me how you feel. Don't think, just feel,